p.m. tonight, November 21st, 1995. Hello, you're on the air with Jonathan Ott.
Yes, I'm sure it hasn't been lost on you that Ambrose Bierce also disappeared in Mexico.
Yes.
I dug out my copy of the Ayahuasca Analogs book to check my marginalia for questions, and as I recall, my main question was I was kind of more interested in those species of plants that didn't have to be, how should I say, the source seed found and then cultivated. I was more interested in what might be manifest. So for example, I was more interested in knowing about the beta-carbolene content of tribulus rather than piganum, because that grows everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And also, for example, maybe DMT sources that would be readily available in the wild. Like the only thing I saw on your list that looked like a possible candidate was either a Rhindodonax, or what about, for example, mimosa species that are very common in garden varieties like albizia and so forth?
Well, I think mimosa is a good bet, but a lot of the common ones, well, the one you mentioned is not known to contain DMT. But one of the best sources, I think probably one of the most promising ones for the future, is a mimosa tenuiflora, or its old name is Mimosa hostilis. And this is known as
That doesn't sound very friendly.
No, well, it's spiny. I think that's why it was called hostilis. In Brazil, it's called jurema, and a potion is made from the roots called vinho da jurema. In Mexico, it's called tepescohuite, and it's a very important ethnomedicine in Mexico, but applied topically to treat burns, and it's imported into the United States for this purpose. But it's rather the root bark and the roots that are used and that contain the high amounts of tryptamines. But seeds of these are already commercially available, and whether the actual root material will be made available commercially or not, I don't know, but I would be most surprised if it weren't so. As far as Tribulus terrestris, I couldn't comment on I don't have that data in front of me, but it would be a simple enough matter to experiment with it and find out. It is a good source of beta-carbolines, and probably would contain amounts commensurate with Peganum harmala. It's in the same family.
They look alike, too.
Yes.
In a way.
But one should exercise extreme caution when experimenting. Now, Tribulus terrestris is used as an ethnomedicine. You'll find a lot of references to that in Pharmacotheon.
Also, I remember reading something where during one of your experiments you pointed out that you didn't recommend prolonged heating, is what it said.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, I think, is actually during that conference a couple of years ago out here, I think Dennis McKenna showed a film of yahe preparation, and it looked like they cooked the thing for hours and hours and hours. Now, why is that?
Well, it depends on where you're talking about. You get a full spectrum of preparation techniques in the Amazon, running from, in the Colombian Amazon, they don't cook it at all, and they just make cold water infusions and only soak it for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. In the Oriente of Ecuador, in the Sibundoy Valley, they tend to cook it for 4 or 5 hours. In the Rio Purus in southern Peru, they cook it for a couple of hours. And in the Iquitos, Tarapoto area of Peru, they cook it for 12 or 14 hours. It's an all-day affair. Now, these alkaloids are not overly soluble in water, and the longer in water that's neutral, that's why I recommend adding lemon juice to acidify the water and enhance the solubility of the alkaloids in water. So the longer you heat it, and heating will, of course, enhance the solubility of these compounds in water. The longer you heat it, you would say you get a better extraction, perhaps. But you're also clearly getting degradation of the alkaloids from the heating. So it's a toss-up. Personally, I feel that just the ecological consideration decides the problem. It's definitely not energy efficient to heat it for 14 hours if you can do the same thing in 20 minutes, which is what I advocate, using my more chemical laboratory techniques, just making 3 extracts, changing the water each time over the same mark or the same residual plant material, and using...
I wasn't disagreeing. I was just wondering why some of these tribes did cook it so long.
Right, I understand. Well, I think I don't have a ready answer for that. there's a lot of mysteries involved in this. There are a lot of additives added. There are different strains of ayahuasca that vary greatly in potency. Also of the leaves that are used for the tryptamine sources. We talk about ayahuasca, but we really should talk about the ayahuascas, because you have not only these differing strains, but about 100 known additive plants that have been described in the scientific literature, which may be used in various combinations. And so it's a tremendously complicated phenomenon. We've only, in a reductionistic way, teased out just the interaction between tryptamines and beta-carbolines in these potions, but they also add tobacco with nicotine,
Right.
coca leaves with cocaine, various caffeine-containing plants like guayusa and yucca, and so forth. And brugmansias that contain tropane alkaloids, brunfelsias that contain scopolamine, and we know nothing about the interactions of those compounds with beta-carbolines or with tryptamines. It's very complicated.
Yeah, very interesting. Incidentally, one of the ways in which I like to neutralize the word primitive is to pronounce it primative.
Primitive, or primogenial is a good substitute also, and then it sounds like genial.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Hello, you're on the air with Jonathan Ott.
Yes, I was going to ask you, are you talking about this ingredients that from the trance that gives euphoria to the people or something?
Pardon me? I didn't understand.
Could you turn off your radio, please?
Hang on. Are these ingredients that you're talking about gives people euphoria, some sort of higher or something?
Well, euphoria is one of the normal concomitants of the entheogenic experience. Yes.
Oh, I see. I understand what you're talking about now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, you're on the air with Jonathan Ott.
Good morning, Roy. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
I was wondering, okay, do you have any information on Chansey? Are you familiar with that?
Coriaria thymifolia?
Yeah, as seen here in the Of the Jungle catalog.
Yes. No, unfortunately, we don't have any solid either dosage from ethnographic reports or chemical information on that. However, I would say that the probability is that the effect is due to what are called andromedotoxins or grayanotoxins, in as much as there's a well-known coriaria from New Zealand that was involved in a large outbreak, an epidemic-like outbreak of honey poisoning, and the source was traced to Coriaria tutu. And the symptoms were very similar to what has been described for Shanxi in Ecuador. Giddiness, lightheadedness, the sensation of flying. It's especially associated with sensations of flying.
That's one of the things that really interests me, along with hallucinations.
Right. I've been trying to grow it without success, not from seed. I tried to grow it from cuttings that I brought from Ecuador, but
Here
they
in
were
California?
too... Pardon me?
In California? And here in the Alps?
No, in Mexico. But unfortunately, they were too long in trans and they didn't make it. I haven't tried to start it from seed. Have you had luck with it?
I haven't grown it yet. I have it here in the catalog, and I want more. I'm looking for more chemical, and also how many berries do you eat.
Well, we don't have, as I say, very specific dosage information, but the chemical references and information can be found in Pharmacotheon. You can just look it up in the Botanical Index and go right to the page.
And I was wondering, the last time I talked to you on Roy's show, this is, I guess about a year or two ago,
yes.
You mentioned this, I believe it was powdered semen seeds that you get at Indian stores.
Well, they're not powdered, they're whole seeds, but they're in Middle Eastern groceries, and they're sold under the name of S-Fond or Ish-Fond.
Can you spell that out?
S-Fond is E-S-P-H...
Wait, E-S-P-H-A-N-D,
S-Fond. That's the name I've seen. E-S-P-H-A-N-D, S-Fond.
And that's how I asked for it? And,
yes.
Well, what do they sell it for?
For incense.
For incense. So what do you do? You grind up the seeds and...
yes, you can get that information out of ayahuasca analogs.
Okay, and also is lysergic acid amide safe from Morning Glory and Hawaiian woodruff seeds? Are they soluble in are they really soluble in ethyl alcohol? I know they are in wood alcohol, but I was wondering like a less toxic route, ethyl alcohol would be the way.
Why not just use water? They're soluble in water.
Well, I'm talking about making it into a yellow gum.